Hey, everybody, on this cold Friday night, welcome back to the Get Frumpy Happy Hour with everybody's favorite Frumpy Broad. I haven't even started drinking yet, and beloved columnist, Marla Jo Fisher. I'm Sam Dunn. I'm a senior editor for the Southern California News Group, and I am a proud friend of Marla's. I want to thank everybody, all of our subscribers and attendees for making our virtual programs possible. And by the way, if you're a Reader Reward subscriber tonight, you're automatically entered to win a $50 gift card from Bevmo, which will help a lot with your happy hours. Before we get started, there are a couple things I need to tell you. Oh, wait, I forgot to say, if you're not a subscriber, why aren't you a subscriber? Go to scng.com/subscribe and find your local paper. Anyway, before we get started, I needed to tell you a few things. All of you in the audience are muted to allow for, well, how do I say this, more Marla. But if you have questions, and we hope you do, you can use the Q&A feature on the Zoom toolbar on your screen. It is the theme, by the way. Tonight you can ask Marla anything except her weight. Anyway, if you just want to add a comment, use the chat feature found at the bottom of the toolbar too. I'll be monitoring questions and the comments and pass them along to Marla as much as possible. Also, this session will be videotaped and a link will be sent to you. And it's also going to be posted at scng.com/virtual events and on our SCNG YouTube channel, so you can revisit some of your favorite moments. Anyway, now it's my distinct pleasure to bring on the reason for the season, the longtime columnist and author of Frumpy Middle-Aged Mom, Dispatches from the Front Lines of Motherhood, which you can buy a signed copy at Once Upon a Time bookstore. Anyway, here is Marla Jo Fisher. Marla!
Hi. Happy Friday. We love Fridays, right?
We love Fridays. What are you drinking? I'm drinking water tonight.
I have to say something before I get distracted. Did you see the mountains today?
Yes, the snowy mountains.
Freaking unbelievable. When I was driving home today, the mountains had this thick layer of fog or clouds or what have you, and then the snowy mountains just popped out of the top of them. And honestly, when I first saw it, I thought I was having an acid flashback, because it's just like, it was so unexpected, right? I mean, what was the last time you saw the mountains? Not recently, right?
Yeah.
I pull over and look at the mountains for a few minutes, and it was just incredible. And I forgot to tell anyone else, so I'm telling all of you. So hi. And what am I drinking? I am drinking Mystified Soft Red, a 2018 California Napa blend. And it's, of course, from Grocery Outlet, where I believe it costs $4.99 a bottle. They should really sponsor these, because I'm always promoting their products. They're not sponsored. I just freaking love Grocery Outlet. That's where I bought all the wines for Curly Girl's wedding. But I'm doing my best to drink my way through them before the wedding starts. So anyway, yeah, I recommend the Mystified. It's pretty good, and it might be $5.99. I think it's $4.99. So anyway, yes, getting a head start. Yeah,
$4.99. Listen, okay, fair enough. I am drinking boring water as usual, because I'm not the exciting one around here. You are.
No,
always.
Because
you cut out. Luckily, I couldn't hear that one. Anyway, listen, what have you been up to? As if I don't know, but tell us anyway.
Well, we know what we've been up to, because the two of us, along with 5 other people, went on a safari to Kenya. Woohoo! And it was amazing. And before you start freaking out, let me just tell you that whatever the name of that new COVID variant thing, wasn't even in Kenya. And to my knowledge, it's not even there yet, because Kenya is 3,000 miles South Africa, right? It's like being from California to New York. So we had no problems whatsoever. And everyone was very safe. The game parks were very safe. And we had a fabulous time. And everybody came home, and nobody,
Marla?
Right?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Are we frozen?
You are frozen. Samantha, you are frozen.
Hello?
Samantha, you are frozen. Uh-oh. Okay, well, I'm not quite sure what to do about this. hang on. Should I?
You're back.
I'm back. Oh, wow.
You're
Okay.
back.
So it was you that was back. Sam, we lost you for a minute, but we're back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay,
Okay,
thanks. Sorry.
See, you
Okay.
were trying to blame me, and it wasn't even me. It was you.
It was your fault. It's always your fault. Anyway, go ahead.
I don't even know what I was saying. So I was babbling on as usual, but yeah, so Sam brought her son, and my other friend, who also happens to be named Sam, brought her daughter, and I brought Cheetah Boy and his girlfriend Anna, and we just had a fabulous time. You know, we stayed at these beautiful game lodges, and we ate a lot. And oh, guess what? I only gained 1 pound. I was very impressed, because we're riding around in the safari vehicles all day long, and you're not getting out. They don't let you out because they don't want to protect you, but they just want to protect the animals. So, you know, they're afraid that if you got out of the van and a lion ate you, then they might have to hurt the lion, right? So they don't let you out of the safari vans. So as a result of that, you don't really get any exercise, but they do give you 3 large meals a day. So as a result of that, I feel quite proud that I only gained 1 pound. So did you
That's
gain
pretty
any?
good. I don't even get on scales anymore. Thank you, Marla. But that answers Cheryl McClooney's question. She says, I have problems walking. Did you have to do much walking on your safari adventure?
Okay, here's the deal. You don't, because as I said, you're just in the safari van, and you know, I'm super gimpy. I use a cane. I think if you used a walker, you would even be okay. Now, Mr. Bott, who is the owner of our safari company, who we love, by the way.
We love him.
We love you, Mr. Bott. It's Kenya Tours and Safaris. It's KENIA. So Tours and Safaris, and you can find them online. But we love him, and he has a specially equipped safari vehicle that has a ramp and everything for wheelchairs. So if you need a wheelchair, talk to him about it. However, we didn't discuss that. He and I did not discuss that beforehand. So when I got there, I was like, oh, this step is too high for me. So Cheetah Boy basically just grabbed my butt and pushed me up into the safari van every single time. And it was a source of great hilarity for all the locals who were standing around. But I was actually kind of used to it after being lifted and carried and shoved into various vehicles, you know, like boats and whatever. So I'm just kind of used to it now. But I'll give you an example. The first place we went, which was the Samburu Simba Lodge, they had a ramp, like a very gentle ramp that went all the way down to the main level, and then another ramp that went down to the rooms. And there was even a large wheelchair friendly bathroom there that had grab bars on the sides. So if you wanted to do it and you are gimpy like me, you could do it. You don't have to stay home. And you just, you know, as Sam remembers, I was, you know, carted like a princess through all the airports in my fabulous wheelchair. You know, you just
it was like the Raj in India. I mean, it was like
right. I felt like crown, you know. So, but yeah. So if you just order a wheelchair, it doesn't cost anything. Although I always tip the people, because let's face it, I'm a plus size woman, and if they have to push me all the way around the airport, you know, plus my luggage, they deserve a, you know, nice big tip. But yeah, so through the airport in Paris and through the airport in the Netherlands and at LAX and all that, you get pushed around in a wheelchair. I mean, honestly, you don't have to do a darn thing, you know, you just sit around like a queen. And the people who do that, who like that job, are generally super nice. So if you want to go, I would just say go, you know, 100%, right? Some may have remembered that, you know, that refrain from my trip to Greece.
And speaking of of your assistants in Paris, I thought you were going to go home with that guy. I just have to say, you were pretty in love with your helper in Paris, as we are.
Sorry about that helper in Paris. He was just such a great guy. And he didn't just push me in the wheelchair. We were having a problem with Cheetah Boy's ticket, and so we had to go deal with French people, which if you've ever dealt with French people is not always the most pleasant experience. And so we had to go to Air France, and deal with the French people. And he just launched right in and did all my negotiating for me and just stayed with them. And like, there was a heated discussion going on until they fixed Cheetah Boy's ticket. And like, he did all that. And his only job is really to be a wheelchair assistant. He was a wonderful human being. Right. And then, then he wheels me to the gate and everybody's there waiting for me. And Sam is there. And Sam, by the way, she used to live in Paris because she's one of those people. And so she used to live in Paris and she speaks French. And I said to her, okay, wow, he was amazingly nice for a French person. And she looked at his badge and she's like, he's not French. He's like, and that explained it, right? He wasn't even French. That's why he was nice. I'm sorry if you're French and you're offended, but too bad. That was my personal experience in France.
Yes,
Anyway.
Yes. And when he went to lift you up, you thought he was hugging you and you hugged him back, which was one of my favorites.
I always think men are hugging me and they're never freaking hugging me. They're always just doing some aspect of their job. It's very hurtful.
Anyway, we have a very burning question from Nadja Sokolov. She wants to know, did you have problems with monkeys throwing their poop?
Oh my God. Nadia saw this on my Facebook page, undoubtedly. And by the way, I don't know why you're not on my Facebook page if you're not, because you're missing all my boring photographs. Anyway, okay, so we're at the Samburu Simba Lodge, and there was all these black-faced fervent monkeys, and there was also baboons. There was a lot of baboons walking around the grounds, and they tell you to keep your sliding glass doors closed so you don't have monkeys and baboons tearing up your room, which is really a drag, actually, because it's hot and you would like to be able to open your doors.
Totally.
So I'm taking a little rest on my bed. And I get up and I see this baboon, by the way, it's a huge baboon because the male baboons, not exactly sure what they call the males, but the male baboons are gigantic, right? And they're actually a little terrifying looking. So this terrifying looking male baboon has just taken over my lounge chair and he's relaxing on my woven lounge chair and having a good old time. And then he just leans over and takes a big leisurely poop right on my terrace. And I'm just like, oh my God. And then, of course, I wanted to get a picture of the baboon. So I leap off my bed as quickly as skimpy people can leap off their beds. And I go get my camera, which of course is my iPhone, and go over to take his picture. And he just gives me a dirty look and runs off because the little bleepity bleep, wouldn't let me take his picture. I mean, if he was going to make a mess on my terrace, the least he could do is let me take his picture. So anyway, that happened. But I have to say, no monkeys pooped on my terrace at any point. Thank you, monkeys.
Did they pee on your terrace? Because our monkeys stood on the rail of the terrace and just peed over the side. That's what the monkeys did with our terrace.
No, our monkeys were quite respectful. You know what our monkeys were? Like sometimes you'll get those people who want to, wash your windows or something, right? And you don't want them to. And they'll come and be like, oh. That's how the monkeys were. The monkeys would come up to my window, or they come up to the slider and they'd just be like, oh, please, lady, let me in. Not going to hurt you. I'm not going to destroy your room. I'm not going to rip your suitcase open. Just let me in. Look how cute I am. And you know that you can't let them in because they would destroy everything.
Right. So, because they stole the lime out of Michael's drink in the cocktail lounge.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So we're waiting for everybody else to go into dinner because they're late. Right. And so Cheetah Boy, okay, that's a lie. They weren't late, but we just needed a drink, right? So it was 5 o'clock, what the hell? So anyway, so Cheetah Boy and his girlfriend and I are sitting in the cocktail lounge, right? The cocktail lounge at the lodge, on these very comfy chairs, and everything there is open air because it's hot, right? So we're sitting in the cocktail lounge having fancy cocktails, and this little monkey like creeps up and he sits in an unoccupied chair and he just looks real cute, like you're sitting there and you're going, oh, look at the cute monkey. Isn't that monkey cute, right? But this is all the tricks that he was doing on purpose because he learned this little routine. Because just when you start oohing and awing and thinking about how cute he is, then he just reaches over and he just grabs the lime out of my son's drink and then runs off. So it was all just a big charade, that he was doing in order to, steal the fruit, right? Now I have to say my son is such an alcoholic that he drank the drink anyway after the monkey.
Tell them about the wildlife show at the Sunborough Lodge our last night. Do you remember?
Which one?
The crocodiles that came up for dinner.
Oh, okay. Well, this is like, they're throwing meat out to the crocodiles. What were they throwing? I don't even remember.
They were throwing goat carcasses.
Goat carcasses. Okay.
Yeah.
And let me point out that Sam has a goat as a pet goat.
Three.
She has 3 pet goats, and I'm constantly reminding her that goats are really tasty, but she doesn't really mention to me when I do this. Okay. So anyway, so I don't know. I guess they're the hotel's pet crocodiles or something. I don't know. We're very close to the river right there. And so I guess for the entertainment of the guests or something after dinner, they just throw goat carcasses out there and let the crocodiles fight among each other. So it's sort of like Peter Pan. Remember the scene in Peter Pan where the crocodile's biting off Captain Hook's arm, and they're fighting with each other? Well, that's sort of like the crocodiles. So, but this is like, wild Africa. You're seeing wild Africa, except for, the staged goat carcasses.
Do you remember Wild Kingdom on Sunday nights when you were a kid on the Disney? Yeah, right. It reminded me of a Wild Kingdom show. It's like, here for your entertainment.
Right? Yeah. Wild Kingdom. That was definitely our Saturday night viewing.
It was.
It was like watching Wild Kingdom or watching the Discovery Channel or watching nature. It's like I really urge you to do this if you have the interest, because it's easier than you think. And it's just an unforgettable experience. I mean, it really is a life-changing experience, don't you think? I mean,
oh, completely. I can't even begin. It's your show, you go, but it really, from the people to the animals to the landscape, it is truly unforgettable, and it shifts something inside you. It's just beyond words. It was amazing. Hazel Sanders has a burning question for you. She wants to know, how was the weather? Talk about the weather.
Oh, the weather was so great. Oh my gosh. It was so cold when we got back here. Oh my gosh. I'm just was like shivering every single minute. I'm still shivering. Kenya. Okay. So we were in Kenya, which is in East Africa. And, when we live here, we're in the habit of saying like, we went to Africa, but of course, Africa is a gigantic continent. It's like going to North America, right? You don't say like, I went to North America, right? You say I went to New York. So Kenya is right on the equator. So you really normally would have no seasons at all except rainy season and not rainy season, but it also depends on the altitude. So when you're in a lower altitude like we were originally, it's hot. It was hot, not unbearably hot because it was very dry, right? It was hot like Riverside hot,
right?
But not Springs hot. But then when we got up in the mountains, it was interesting because we're getting hot, and like the first lodge we stayed in, which was a beautiful lodge, I would give it 3 or 4 stars, except that they turned off the generator at night, because seriously, you are in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's not like there's any electrical lines running out to there.
No.
So they would turn off the generator in the middle of the night, so your overhead fan would stop. So you'd just be like, oh man, I'm just, sweating, and you couldn't open the doors because of the stupid animals out there, right? I mean, I like to see the animals during the day, but I don't want to be sharing my bed with them at night. So then when you're just like kind of lying there sweating at night, you do wish, that maybe they had bought some solar panels. But then ironically, right after we left there, we went to 6,800 feet in the air, up at Mount Aberdare, it's called, which by the way is named after a Welsh town because it looks a lot like Great Britain. And it was cold.
It was really cold. Yeah. But it was cold. It was jacket and hat cold.
I wore my long underwear to bed, and then I was so happy because actually my column that's running Sunday, I talk about how I really failed with my packing because there was 3 things I didn't wear on the trip, and my goal in life is to wear absolutely every single thing that I bring. And one of the things, but I was very happy that I had a chance to wear my long underwear, which I wore to bed. And then I actually, don't tell, but I wore my long underwear to get coffee in the morning too. And it was very early in the morning and nobody else was up, but I definitely startled a lot of the staff walking around in my long underwear. But like before you've had coffee, nothing counts before you've had coffee,
But tell them about the place that we were actually at that you're talking about. It was pretty remarkable and strange too.
Okay, it's this place called the Ark. And it's supposed to look like Noah's Ark. Did you think it looked like Noah's Ark?
No, it didn't look anything like Noah's Ark, but it was wooden.
It's supposed to look like a ship, like Noah's Ark. You understand the theme, right? But what was cool about it was you actually had to get on a special shuttle bus just to go there because they don't allow ordinary riffraff like us to just drive in and out, and you get there and everybody disembarks at the same time. And then you go in and you have a teeny weeny little cozy room. And then all around you, you have these big open spacious areas with huge picture windows where you can look out, and there's a water hole and a salt lick where you can basically just watch the animals because they were telling me that they built that place because of the salt lick and because the animals were already coming there. So they built this place and then they added the water hole. The water hole actually looks real, but it's not. Yeah, so it's my absolute dream situation, and it could be for you too, because all you have to do is sit there with a cocktail and watch all the animals. You don't even have to get in a safari van. You just sit there and the animals come to you, right? We saw elephants and Cape buffaloes and Pumbaas and
hyenas and those horrible looking forest pigs that were so terrifying. Do you remember?
Giant forest hog. And again, when I saw those, I thought I was having a flashback because I couldn't understand what this massive, bizarre creature was until I read about it. Like the size of a hippo. I mean, they were gigantic. And again, all you had to do was just sit there and watch them, and it was amazing. And then the interesting thing is, in your tiny little cozy room, they have a little switch, a little buzzer, and you can turn on the buzzer if you want them to buzz you during the night if interesting animals come to the water hole. So it was like one buzz. I think it was one buzz for elephant. No, maybe.
Yes, that's right. No, one buzz for the water buffalo, I think. 2 for the elephant, 3 for the hyena, and 4 if people were eating each other or creatures were eating each other. Yeah.
So the thing was that so you could, flip those switches if you just couldn't get enough of the animals, or if for some bizarre reason, which I don't know what it would be, their animals weren't there because those elephants were just sucking down those minerals at that area, right? And but by the time we went to bed, I'd seen enough animals, and I was tired, so I didn't need. And then they get this. Okay, so they put a hot water bottle in your bed. Is that like the cute? thing ever.
That was
right?
so sweet. My son didn't know what it was. He was like, what are we supposed to do with this? I said, you put it in your bed. It warms up the bed.
That was the sweetest little place ever. I wouldn't really want to, and it was very romantic. So, honeymoon, right? But, and then they had a roaring fire. They had a huge roaring fire, during the night. And then I, being a total cheapskate, of course, I didn't want to pay $30 for a bottle of wine at the restaurant. So I had bought a $9 bottle of wine, a bottle of Chilean wine at a grocery store earlier in the day. So I gave it to our waiter, I can't remember his name, but he was a great guy, right? All the waiters were great guys.
Wasn't that Charles? Wasn't that Charles?
That was Charles. Okay.
Yes, that was Charles.
We love all our waiters, by the way, with all of the staff actually. And so somebody told me, and I very cleverly gave Charles a nice big glass of the wine, and oops, he forgot to charge me the $20 corkage fee for the wine, right? And he got a nice glass of wine out of it. So good for him.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it's good. Carl Eaton wants to know, did you do the sundowner cocktail at the end of the day?
No, what is it? Carl,
what is that? Carl, what is the sundowner cocktail? We don't know. We missed it. Well, she missed it. I don't drink. Darn it. Anyway, Carl hasn't told us yet, but she had many cocktails, Carl. I can tell you that. It was good.
Yeah.
So then the next day, tell them what we did after that at Lake Nakuru.
Okay, so then we get back in the safari van. The only thing that I would do differently about the safari is it was a very hot, rushed safari. And the reason for that is that frickin' KLM Airlines cut us off a day. They changed our flight so that we had one day less for our safari. So, which sucked, right? So I could have easily spent several more days just sitting around the safari lodges with a book, and just kicking back and enjoying the beautiful scenery and the animals, right? But kind of because of our schedule, and also because the kids had to go back to school after Thanksgiving, so we kind of had to bust it through. So we didn't spend as much time lolling around as I would have liked to. So the next morning, actually after the arc, we immediately got back on the safari van, headed back out, and then we headed to one of the most beautiful places in Kenya, which is called Lake Nakuru. Mm-hmm. And it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous place. Now, Lake Nakuru, if you look in a guidebook, if you look at a guidebook, you will see that it's famous for its flamingos. And actually, I have seen Lake Nakuru covered like glowing pink because it's covered with pink flamingos. But over the last few years, for reasons that they don't really understand, it's gotten so much more water in it that the flamingos went to other lakes because they have to be able to eat shrimp in shallow water. So now, but what we saw, which I've never seen before, was pink pelicans, which was very bizarre. So we go to Lake Nakuru, and then, so we check in, and again, it's a beautiful lodge, right? And these guys went off on their afternoon game drive. I don't know if that's the story you wanted to tell, but I'm telling it anyway. So these guys go off on, so what happened is that because I'm gimpy, so they would go off on a game drive in the afternoon, and I would just take a nap or chill out, right, for a couple hours while they were gone. And it was fine, except for the day that was the day that you guys came back and said, we saw 13 rhinos. Ugh.
We did. We saw 13 rhinos and the guards who guarded them.
Oh my gosh. So yeah.
11, yeah.
Okay, so I may have regretted not on that particular game drive because this trip I did not see a rhino because you know, rhinos are endangered. So
they are endangered, and they had both the black rhino and the white rhino, which was very rare. Carl Eaton has answered our question. He says some safaris at the end of the day stop at a water hole where animals gather and serve snacks and gin and tonics.
Oh, well, obviously we have to discuss that with our guide, Richard.
I was going to say, yeah.
And tonics on the entire trip, but we did, the times we stopped and had a wonderful picnic, actually. That was really fun.
Right, it was, but we had juice boxes and potato chips. So anyway, there's someone said did you say Pumbaas? What are they? Have they not seen The Lion King? Who asked this question? I must. John Halligan. Yes,
Okay.
we said Pumbaas.
Okay, a Pumbaa is a warthog, and in Swahili they are called Pumbaa. And if you have seen The Lion King, which is pretty ubiquitous right now in our popular culture, so you must be one of those elevated people who are not tuned into popular culture. One of the main characters in The Lion King is a warthog named Pumbaa, but Pumbaa is the actual Swahili name for warthogs. So, and they are as funny as they are in the show, which is that they run around looking like feral pigs, but with their tails stuck straight up in the air. So it's kind of hilarious to watch them run. Anyway, so Lake Nakuru, I have to finish telling you the story unless anybody interrupts. But okay, so we're at Lake Nakuru. These guys have gone off to see their freaking 13 rhinos. And I am in the bathroom. I wouldn't share this with you, but I'm going to. So I'm in the bathroom and I closed the door, and I don't know why I closed the door because I'm all alone, but I have closed the door. And all of a sudden I hear something that sounds like lions roaring. And I'm like, that's crazy. I couldn't possibly, again, I thought acid flashback, because I couldn't possibly be hearing lions roaring in a bathroom with the door closed, in a room with the slider closed, right? It just seemed like crazy. So I thought, okay, I'm just tripping. I didn't really hear the lion. So I go back out and sit on the terrace. No baboons this time. In fact, really no animals around at all. And I'm sitting there reading, and the game warden / security guy comes by and he says, "Did you hear the lions?" And I'm like, yay, right? I knew it was a lion. I knew it was a lion. So it was lions. And he said, there's 2 lions up here. He's like, they're right over there. And just so you know that you're protected, we're patrolling, to make sure that no lions come up, And I'm like, where? I want to see the lions, because I hadn't seen any lions yet, although we did see 5 lions the next day. But so I actually walked over and tried to see the lions. I couldn't see the lions, but then he told me that's why there's no game, because normally you would at least see, antelope or whatever, right, around, and we saw nothing. And, and then I realized, oh, no antelope are going to be hanging around here, lion here. So, so that was an interesting experience. And then the next day, I just saw that Mike Lord asked if there were any elephants. Mike?
Oh boy.
There were so many elephants. It's just impossible to describe. First of all, we saw elephants playing in the river. We saw them squirting each other with little babies, right? Because it's spring there, because the seasons are reversed in Africa. So it was spring there. And so you had all these adorable little babies that looked like Dumbo, and they're all like squirting each other, right? It was the cutest thing. And we just sat there for the longest time, just awestruck, right? But then later, when we got to the Masai Mara, we had elephants all around us. I mean, we were
around us.
We were on this road, and I have to explain, the roads are either just tracks through the grass, or in some cases they're actual dirt roads. And we just came to a stop because the elephants are completely all around us. I mean, there's all these mom elephants with their little babies, and one of them was even nursing, and then the half-grown males, and we were just gobsmacked, right? So
you could see the hairs on their trunks that we were that close.
It was just, and then they started just walking across the road in front of us, and we're just like, oh, these are wild elephants. We were just watching wild elephants doing their wild elephant thing. It was just so incredible, really.
Lynn Hunt has a good question apropos of this. She says, did your trip stimulate any feelings of the need to protect these animals from extinction? I would say absolutely yes.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, but I had that already. So
yeah,
but,
me too. Yeah.
Well, the best thing you can do actually is to go to these game parks in these different countries, because I'll give you an example of Kenya. the people of Kenya are very proud of their animals and they're very proud of their game parks. So they want to protect them anyway. But the fact that it brings in big tourist dollars just adds to the level of protection, because it pays for, you know, park rangers, and it pays for anti-poaching campaigns, because the animals, they do get poached, right? And so, you know, one of the best things really that you can do is support them with your tourist dollars. And, you know, the added benefit of that is your mouth just drops open when you see these animals. They're just so incredible.
And I didn't realize until we went there, but tourism is a huge part of the GDP of Kenya. It's I forget, 4%, even 5%. I forget. The number was pretty staggering. We have a question from, or a comment rather, that I think you'll enjoy, from Charlene Sweeney. She says, check out the movie Out of Africa. The book is even better. Let's tell her about Karen Blixen's house.
Okay, so first of all, I have to tell you that I read Out of Africa a long time ago. Loved it, because I love Isaac Dinesen, and I read quite a few of her books, but my favorite one was definitely Out of Africa. You know, it's such a beautiful book. Nowadays, there's controversy about it because people are like, oh, it's promoting colonialism and all that, because she was from Denmark and she married a baron, and they went out to Kenya to start a coffee. Well, they started something else first. It didn't work out. So then they ended up starting a coffee farm. The coffee farm was not terribly successful because they were slightly too low of an altitude for the coffee to, you know, be at best. And then plus the Baron was cheated on her and gave her syphilis. So yeah, there was a lot to that story. But anyway, and then she fell in love with a big game hunting guide named Dennis Finch Hatton, who also was a bush pilot. And then he was killed in a tragic accident. So it was a lot of drama, right? And she was forced, unfortunately, by falling coffee prices, she was forced to sell her farm at a loss and move back to Denmark, where she became like the first woman of letters there, right? But as a lot of you know, they made a movie out of it called Out of Africa that starred Meryl Streep and Robert Redford. It's a wonderful movie. And as a result of that, they preserved, the Danish government actually donated the money to the country of Kenya to preserve her house as a museum. So you can now go and see her house, and it's actually really interesting to see how these are British, or no, not British, but these early European settlers lived. Yeah. And it was very interesting. And it's just such a beautifully written book. It's lyrical, right? And the wistfulness, because she wrote this book when she went back to Denmark, you know, dark, gloomy, cold Denmark, after being in the light and the warmth and the beauty of Africa. And the wistfulness just comes through in every sentence, you know? And so anyway, I recommend the book, I recommend the movie, and yeah.
Recommend touring the house when you go to Nairobi, for sure.
Right.
Cheryl Weiland wants to ask, when is the best time of year to go on safari in Kenya? Which is good because you have been twice, so you might have perspective.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, okay? The first time I went to Kenya, I went in July 15 years ago, okay? The kids were little. Curly Girl was 7 and Cheetah Boy was 9. Nobody ever takes their little kids there because they're afraid of malaria, but you know, I took them anyway, and it was great. They loved it so much. And we went in July, because the reason that you go in July is because that's when they have what they call the migration. And that is the time of year when the wildebeest migrate from the Masai Mara in Kenya to the Serengeti in Tanzania. And it's actually just one big, massive grassland of thousands of miles. But they've eaten all the grass in the Masai Mara. So they swim over the Sand River. And I'm sure everybody has seen video of those river crossings where the wildebeest, are struggling against the current, and then they finally, like make their way up the side of the bank, and crocodiles are eating them, and there's other predators. The predators go with them, right? So it's an incredibly dramatic experience, and we did get to experience that the first time. Also, the other bizarre thing is the wildebeest, which are very strange looking creatures, by the way, they millions of them, they run like in single file. It's so strange. Like, where do they get this, right? It's like they're in the army or something. They run single file, right, across the plains to get to this river, and then they cross in single file also. It's very bizarre, but that is the ideal time to go. And I had some reservations about going in November because I was like, well, I don't know, are there going to be any animals there? I don't really know. But as we found, yeah, there were tons of animals, tons
of animals.
Right? How many lions?
Oh God, we saw at least, I would say we saw at least 10 lions, including the little litter of cubs we saw up on the hill.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then, and we saw 2 leopards, which is very unusual.
3. We saw 3. Because...
No, you saw without me.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
Sorry, we saw 3.
And then we saw 4 cheetahs that were all brothers. And what's fascinating about seeing the cheetahs is then we backed off a little bit when they started walking, and it was very interesting because I was trying to think of what kind of human analogy would be to that, but you had these cheetahs that start walking, and all of a sudden, all of the antelopes, right? Everybody, they smell the cheetahs, and all of a sudden, the antelopes and the zebras, they're like, bye. And then they're just zoom, they're just gone, So it was kind of fascinating watching them run from the cheetahs,
Absolutely. We have a few questions that we should get to. Cammie Booker wants to know, bug spray, sunscreen, shots, and vaccines. What did we do? You want to take that one?
Okay, I did a little bit different. Okay, I brought these wipes that I got, the camping wipes that had 30% DEET. Deep Woods Off is a good choice. Now, you need to bring wipes. You can't really bring spray if you're going to check your bag. If you're not going to check your bag, which you don't want to check your bag. But the reason you don't want to check your bag is that you have to change planes in Europe, and you don't want to lose your bag, right? So, but wipes are okay. And I used the mosquito wipes the whole time, and I didn't have any problem. I brought malaria medicine, but I didn't take it, and I did not get bitten. But they do recommend that you take malaria medicine. And I, of course, spent a crap load of money on malaria medication that I never took. So if you want some malaria medication, let me know because I have some. And yeah, before you go to a travel clinic and they want you to take every shot known to man. And they're just do what you feel is right. Definitely do not do a yellow fever shot because they don't have any yellow fever in Kenya, right?
I was just gonna beam in and say that I, not having been to Africa before and taking my 12-year-old son there, I just did everything that the travel nurse at Kaiser Permanente told us to do. One of them was yellow fever, and they made a very, very, urgent request that we show this vaccine card when we got to customs. When we get there, nobody cares about the yellow fever at all. That's outdated information. It was a shot that I don't even think we needed.
But he had told you that in advance.
If only somebody named Marla Jo Fisher had told me that beforehand. But no, I was listening to the travel nurse. But we were all vaccinated against COVID. We all had the regular vaccines, and there were no issues at all.
They want to get like dysentery and typhoid and hepatitis A and B and C and D and E, whatever they are. And, it doesn't really hurt to get those. So yeah, just fine. I didn't actually have to have any vaccines because I'm always going to weird places, where I didn't really need them. Yeah. Does that answer? I don't know.
I think so. And also, I wanted to say something about the bug spray. I found this bug spray that was recommended to me by one of my cousins who's a hunter, and it's from the pepper tree. I wish I could remember the ingredient. Anyway, used it, didn't have one bite the whole time, but it could have been from your deep woods off deep wipes too, because I use those as well.
No, but the travel nurse told me to get that. It's the ingredient in Avon Skin So Soft. Believe it or not.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but I can't remember the name, but it starts with a P. So
It starts with a P. It's picarin or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, it's not citronella, you guys. I'm seeing in the chat. It's something else. It starts with a P. Ronald, I'm going to pronounce this the French way. Goutier asked the question, what are the flights like? Wearing a mask for so many hours is daunting. What was your experience?
Okay, wearing the mask sucked, right? I mean, like there's no, and you're wearing the mask from when you go in the airport until you arrive there, which is 24 hours later. So it's not fun, but it's worth it. But this is something that's really important that I want to talk to you about, okay? And I was lecturing my friend about that this morning. So now you have to be lectured, and feel free to, bleep off if you can't stand it. International travel right now is safer than domestic travel in terms of COVID, okay? And the reason that I say that, I can speak from personal experience because I've taken 3 international trips since August, okay? So the reason that it's safer is this. When you get on a plane today to fly to New York, no one has to be vaccinated. No one has to have a COVID test, nothing. You just get on the plane and the person sitting next to you could be coughing up a storm, and, you have no recourse, right? When you get on a plane to fly anywhere internationally, you're not getting on that plane until you have a COVID test, and you have to show the gate agent your negative COVID test before you can even get on the plane. So when you get on the plane, everyone on that plane has tested negative for COVID. And I found that very comforting personally. And when we came back, we couldn't even enter. We literally could not enter the Nairobi airport without showing our negative COVID test, which we had to go get in Nairobi the day before, and our vaccine card. I mean, you couldn't even walk into the airport without those.
And she's not exaggerating. They make you stop, I don't know, half a mile, maybe it wasn't quite that much, quarter of a mile away from the airport. There's a stop, what's the word I'm looking for? Barrier station. You have to get out of the vehicle, go in through, well, you didn't have to because you were disabled, but we had to go in, show our vaccine cards, get our bags checked through security even before we got to the airport, and then they were checked again. And we have another question from Nancy Colosio. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. She says, can you speak to safety in this area? And safety was never an issue, I didn't feel. But
let me just finish that, because even when, after you had to walk through and then get back on the van, even when you got to the airport, you had to stand in a line to show your COVID test and your vaccine card again for the second time, just to walk in the door of the airport. So everyone in that airport had showed that they were vaccinated and that they had a negative COVID test. I mean, everyone. And so the thing is that you could get on that plane and you could feel confident that people there most likely did not have COVID, right? And just contrast that with flying to San Francisco with all these obnoxious people, honestly, half of which are not even wearing their frickin' masks. They wear them on the plane, but, in the airport, I always want to go up and slap people when I see them without their mask on. And so when we went to a game lodge, I think it was the Lake Nakuru Lodge, every game lodge, like the Lake Nakuru Lodge, they wouldn't let you in the big iron gates until they took your temperature. And then you had to wash your hands and put your mask on before you were even allowed to walk in the doors of the lodge. So I felt way safer. I mean, I felt so much safer there than I do walking down the street in Huntington Beach, So there's that. Nairobi is crime-wise. Nairobi was recently ranked as one of the most crime-ridden cities in the world. All right, that's just the way it is. People are very safety conscious there. So
Yes.
as that, you're staying in super safe places. We stayed in a suburb called Westlands, and we stayed in a fancy hotel, and like our taxi wasn't even allowed to pull in the gateway of the hotel.
And all the hotels have gates, by the way. They're not open. People just can't walk in from the street.
And so once you get in there, you are completely safe. And let me explain to you the way these safaris work, not just ours, but all of them. You get picked up by your safari guide at whatever hour of the day or night that your flight arrives. And then you are basically with that guide every second, except when you're asleep, until they drop you off at the end of your safari. And so you're with a local person or two local people who are making sure that you're safe every minute of every day. And so I could not have felt more safe. I don't know. What about you, Sam?
I didn't have any issues at all, honestly. And keep in mind, I had my 12-year-old with me. And if I had sensed that we would have been in compromised positions, I never would have brought him. But it was incredibly well organized. Tourism, as we said, is a huge industry. And I'm not saying that all tourists are safe, but there's definitely a sense of care. We were on the street. I had to actually go to the emergency room in Nairobi because of a worry about my leg. Marla went with me. We were standing on the corner after everything. I was checked out. Everything was fine. We're standing on the corner waiting for our lift, and Marla had her phone in her hand. A person in a car comes up, rolls down her window, and says, "Excuse me, don't show your phone on the street. Hide your phone." You know, they were that conscientious about visitors, and no, I never worried at all. Go ahead.
I mean, the Kenyans, it was unbelievable. I've never been, it made me ashamed of how we treat people in this country, right? I don't know if you've ever been to Vegas, but you know, there's a lot of jerky people who work in Vegas, you know, in tourism in Vegas. And, you know, the people in Kenya, they were so kind to us, and, you know,
Kind.
unbelievable.
So kind. Unbelievable. I fell in love with the country. Are you there, my dear? You
Yes.
just went off screen. Okay. Two burning questions. We're getting toward the end of the hour, so I just want to ask these burning questions. Shirley Lowe wants to know, what were the bathroom availabilities like? Let's talk bathrooms.
Well, I'm guessing you're asking about the game drives. I'm not really sure okay, so this is what happens when you're driving across the country. There's these curious stops, right? That what they do is they cater to tourists. So the tour buses pull in there, and they make sure that they have sparkling clean bathrooms. And so you go in and you use their sparkling clean bathroom, and then you feel guilty if you don't buy something there. So you do buy something there, and luckily for me, other people bought stuff there. And so that's what happens on the road, you know, because they have these kind of organized tourist stops, right? It's not a problem at the lodges, of course, because there's beautiful bathrooms. It's like a 3 or 4 star hotel at the lodges. And I think there was only one time on the Masai Mara, maybe, that I had to like find a bush. I won't go into any more detail than that, but you know, but other than that, you know, our safari guide Richard, he was very cognizant of the fact that, you know, he's been 25 years. You know?
I will say that I too had to find a bush on the Masai Mara, and it was a little disconcerting because we had just, you know, 15 minutes before seen a pack of hyenas, and, you know, 10 minutes later we saw 5 lions. But other than that, it was fine. Anyway, one more question. Once again, Gail Skaggs wants to know the tour that we took. Hit it, okay. Marla.
It's Kenya Tours and Safaris. It's so Kenya, as
I'll put it in the chat too.
Okay. Kenya, as you probably know, is spelled Kenya, but this company is not. It's spelled Kenya. So it's kenyatours.com. And it's a small local business. And, you know, when I travel, I always like to patronize local businesses, because a lot of times these kind of companies are run by big, you know, international companies, right? Or international people that come in and run them. And I personally prefer to support the local people. So Mr. Bott, our owner, has owned this company for many, many years. And we met his delightful daughter, who's now taking over. And it's way cheaper. You'd be stunned. I'm just, all I can say is you would be stunned. If you have the image in your head, I sound like an infomercial. This is like really pathetic. Okay, we're not getting anything for this. We're getting zero, except that we really like people and we want to help them because they haven't had any work for 2 years, right? So you would be stunned. What happened is that I have a friend, Terry Sforza. Some of you might know her as the watchdog reporter. And she's been a really close friend, and she's traveled all over the world. And a really long time ago, I wanted to go to Africa, and she told me, oh, just go to Nairobi and get a safari there. It's way cheaper, right? Well, I couldn't really do that because we were traveling with 7 people, and I didn't feel like we could just show up in Nairobi with 7 people and, you know, immediately find a safari. So I did my research and I looked and looked and looked, and the internet was new back then. And then I found this company, right? Kenya Tours and Safaris, a locally owned company. And I looked them up. I made sure that they were legitimate, that they're listed on the list of, you know, Kenya tour operators, that they were authentic. And I sent them the money, and it ended up being the best thing that I ever did in my whole life. You know, now they take credit cards. Back then they did not actually take credit cards. And I've always preferred to patronize them. So I really highly recommend that you go with them. So, and all their guides are local people. You're not getting some like white guy from South Africa who's running it. You know, it's like a real local Kenyan person who's running it. So
absolutely. Well, we're almost at the end of the hour, and the last question, very important. Donna Williams Hill is asking for many people, where can you get an autographed copy of Marla's book? Marla, you want to take that?
Oh man. Okay, so this is what happened. I went to Kenya instead of doing what I should have done, which is figured out how we could get a meetup before Christmas. So do me a favor, okay? Email me at the Register, at Southern California News Group, at mfisher, MFISHER, at SCNG.com, or find me on Facebook and tell me you want a signed copy, and I will figure out how to get you one, okay? Because I know the last year people wanted to get signed copies for Christmas books, and I should have obliged you. And also I find it's really fun to go and do these because people just come and hang out. So I'm going to try to do that. So
that is excellent. So do that. And meanwhile, you can also order a signed copy with a book plate signing from Once Upon a Time bookstore that we had the slide up for at the beginning of the show. Julie, you might want to show that again. Oh, Julie Corlett, everybody, is our Oz behind the curtain, our production manager, and she has the information in the chat if you want to check that out. This is our last happy hour of the year. I want to thank you, Marjo, for bringing so much joy to everybody, for certainly bringing joy to my life. I want to thank everybody for attending, and we will see what happens in 2022. So have a great holiday, everybody.
Bye.
Ciao, babies. Ciao.
Ciao.